Welcome to Last on the Scene. I am Demetria Cole.
And I'm Doc Brown, and where we're going, we don't need roads. I really wanted to do that.
Welcome to Last on the Scene. I'm Demetria Cole.
And I'm Mark Womp. We're the last to tell you the latest in nerd news.
Today, we're going to go to Under the Radar to talk about a new indie game called Home.
And after that, we got Games with Dave, where Dave talks about Assassin's Creed 3.
And you did a Words with Womp where you and Joe Brown talk about Cloud Atlas, right?
Yep, Joe Brown's back, and we're going to do a whole big thing on that. And you got your Madness in Mind, where you talk about a bunch of Kickstarter stuff.
Absolutely. So let's take it over to Reedy Cates, where we go to Under the Radar.
If you're looking for some post-Halloween spooks, then I've got a game that just might strike your fancy. The game Home is a creative new thriller that will have you going, From indie creator Benjamin Rivers comes a game that changes based on the way you play it. The premise is that you're a man, you don't remember the last few days, you've woken up in a strange house, and you need to get out and find your wife, Rachel. My favorite thing about this game is the striking 8-bit graphics. What's cooler than an 8-bit game? And other than just being generally awesome, the lack of detailed visuals lends itself quite nicely to a focus on the incredibly complex story. The controls are just as simple. You use the directional arrows to move about various locations and the spacebar to interact with objects. You don't jump, you don't run, you just walk around and try to figure out what the heck is going on. As a person who plays mostly for story arcs, I didn't mind the simplified nature of the game, but I can see how it could be a little bit boring. What I suggest is that you just really try to immerse yourself in the plot and turn the lights off and use headphones. It's supposed to be suspenseful without quite crossing the line into scary. It's definitely not like Amnesia or something. The most interesting thing about Home is definitely the way the game changes according to your choices. The second time I played through, I made some different choices than the first time, and a new door just appeared out of the Nether Realms. There are upwards of 50 different endings, and the game will be different every time you make a different choice or decide to pursue a new lead. There are a multitude of suspicious things in the house where you wake up, and you get to decide what you think is important enough to look into. Unfortunately, having a game with multiple endings means there's going to be some better endings than others. I know I wasn't terribly satisfied with the first ending that I got, but I definitely appreciated getting there. All in all, Home is a cheap and interesting game that will always have something new for you. On a scale from meh to face melt, it's a cool story, bro. It's hours of spooky ponderings for a mere $3. That's all for today's Under the Radar. Let's get back to Demetri and Mark.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good. You know, it seemed to me like an indie game, like silent film, kind of suspenseful, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of doors, clearly.
Doors?
Yeah.
That actually seems interesting to me, honestly.
All over the walls and stuff.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Yeah. But next, we're taking it over to you.
Yeah.
You're doing your
Yeah,
Kickstarter,
we're doing
Madness in Mind.
Yeah, we're doing a little Kickstarter thing.
Go to that.
Yeah! Welcome to With Madness in Mind. I'm your host, Mr. Demetria Cole, and today we're going to talk about some Kickstarter games, all right? I love Kickstarter. It's a great way in. It's done a great thing for the video game industry. You can donate to all these games, as well as a lot of other projects. I focus on tabletop and video games, but let's talk about a tabletop game, a card game, actually. It's called Boss Monster. Basically, the idea of Boss Monster, brought to you by Brotherwise Games, basically, you play the role, as the title introduces, of the Boss Monster, meaning that you start with a card and several others, and that you try to lure adventurers into your dungeon. And as they go along, and you have to entrap them with monsters, traps, maybe some spells here and there, maybe some sinister evil laughing, inserting over here. And then on top of that, you try to get through. Now be careful, if too many adventurers get through your dungeon, then you're gonna die. But if the other players get more souls than you, which happens when you kill an adventurer through your dungeon, if they get 10 souls, then the game's over and they win. So it's a game of strategy, placing the right traps, and also just being a complete evil genius. Now I gotta tell you, this game is just kind of a special piece for me. It absolutely is just kind of an innovative way to play a card game. Usually you play the hero, but honestly, I hate being the hero. You know, you always have to make these kind of heroic choices, or you're dark and brooding, and I'm kind of looking off to the corner, about that way. Similar about how my life is very hard and tough. Things aren't right in the world. Kind of like that, and it's really, really annoying. But with a villain, I do whatever I want. Want to kill that guy? Done. Want to kill some puppies? No, I don't want to kill puppies. I don't want to kill puppies. That's a bad thing. That's way too bad. But beyond that, you know, at some points, you know, the game itself you don't really know how it's going to turn out with Kickstarter. That's the only thing I don't like. But from the concept that they've designed and what they've brought forward, it actually looks really good. If you want to go check it out, check out the link we're going to put up. And then on top of that, you're going to look that up and take a look at it. They got some gameplay videos. They got all that type of stuff. So, you know, if you end up liking it, if you like yourself a card game, why don't you take a look at it? And then, you know, now we're going to go to something that has already missed their donation date. But then on top of that, it's a great game that you should follow. It's called Planetary Annihilation. Now, I got to tell you, I'm a huge RTS fan. It just holds me in a certain way. RTS is in the vast amount of armies and the way it goes. It just has such a way that really captures your imagination about being a commander that sends in ships or that sends in his army gloriously in the charge. But Planetary Annihilation is something different, is that it takes it to a whole grander scale. Coming from the creators of Total Annihilation and Supreme Commander, the creators of Uber Entertainment, the people who brought you Super Monday Night Combat, have now introduced like I said, Planetary Annihilation. What makes it different, you may ask? Well, speaking of evil geniuses, which is kind of my theme for today. So normally you send units, you attack, try to take over the planet at different points. Well, here, launch your guys off a planet, moon base. There is nothing more evil than a moon base, okay? That's just how it works, okay? Moon base equals secret plot, period. Or volcanoes. Well, volcanoes is kind of like second best. I don't know, it's kind of a ranking system. But on top of that, you have, then you would think it couldn't get eviler. I said it couldn't, but you know, I lied. Then you can take them and go onto asteroids. And what can you do on those asteroids, we say? I don't know, you can fire missiles maybe, something. Nope, we're gonna strap engines to it, rotate it around the sun, and have it collide right into planets. Yeah, that's what's happening right now. Now, that's just the basis. But on top of this, it has such a beautiful scheme of that as many planets as you want, differentiated types of planets. You know, there's water planets where you can only use naval units. There's metal planets with different secret ancient technologies that you can use. That's absolutely amazing. And on top of that, you also have lava planets. You have all these different things. You have gas giants, which are orbital units and refinery sources. There is no absolute end to it. If you have the time, go to Planetary Annihilation. Just look it up. You will find it. It is just one of the most beautiful games that I've ever seen. If you are a true RTS fan, go check it out. And last on the docket that we have is my retro game revival. It's where I take a game that really should be Kickstarted. You know, the game that didn't really have the funding, had a great concept, not great graphics, a lot of bugs, but the game itself was just so good. It was absolutely amazing. Well, the game I picked on the theme of evil villainry, you know, old-timey, mustache, monocle, top hat, that kind of thing, you know, that's mine, you know, tie up train tracks, all that stuff. But I picked Evil Genius, which is the paramount evil villain. You know, it's the game. It's called Evil Genius. But you can just basically, to give you a synopsis of what the game is, I'll just tell you what actually was written in the review. It is basically a combination between Dungeon Keeper, XCOM, and it is inspired by Austin Powers. Guys, I gotta tell you, this game is just so addicting. It was made so long ago. I think somewhere like in 2000, 1999, something around there. And it doesn't hold up to the other games graphically or, you know, with interesting controls. Some of them are blocky, but every time I touch it, I just keep playing it. And it's just so addicting. Anybody that I bring in to play it, they'll play it for hours. The synopsis, you are just an evil genius, plotting world domination. You build your base in a volcano, which is really awesome. And you try to find parts to world domination machines. You fight some evil henchmen like Bond villains. One of them's kind of racist. The Chinese guy, he looks like Bruce Lee, and you know, yeah, it's really, really racist. I don't even want to go into there. But besides that, you know, you fight those pesky Bond villains. And one of the things that you do in that is, you know, you build your corridors in your base, and you build traps. So they get through the door and they're coming by and they trip a laser and boom, piranhas. Open a fish tank full of piranhas. Dude, I want a piranha tank in my house where it just opens up. Really shouldn't get a puppy though. I've always wanted a puppy, so it's piranha tank, puppy, piranha tank, puppy. I'm not sure which one. We'll find out later. But you know, trapping those evil henchmen is a really fun aspect of it. But you know, there's really nothing cooler when those agents break through your door and you hit the red alert button and just all of a sudden your guards grab their guns and you just start running for the door and everything comes out. Reminds you of an Austin Powers movie or a James Bond flick, but you play on the other side, which is something I always love. I always hate playing a hero, like I've said. It's just nothing that I really enjoy more than to actually just play as the villain and don't care about, you know, my motives and stuff. I want to dominate the world. That's it. That's absolutely it. So my advice to you, it's about $5 digital download on multiple different sites. Just look it up. Evil Genius. Honestly, you will not regret it. You'll play it for hours. You'll probably be yelling at me because you've wasted most of your day building a perfect base, killing a bunch of, you know, corporate agents and all that stuff like that, and, you know, have a great time overall though. So go pick it up, and then let's get some hype up to see if we can get that game kickstarted. Well, that's it for With Madison Mind. I'm Demetria Cole. Let's take it back to the other guy. He kind of looks really weird, and I don't really like his voice. He's kind of annoying. And then you have the other guy. He's shorter in the jacket and beard, and I think his name's Womp, Mark Womp, something like that. Yeah, other guy and Womp Dude. Let's take it back to them.
That was pretty great. That was pretty cool Kickstarter stuff.
Yeah, I really love Kickstarter. It's just such
Yeah.
an awesome tool for the
yeah,
video
I
game
know.
industry.
I'd really like to see like a reboot of Evil Genius. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, it would. Just
Yeah.
could you imagine the piranhas, like the
That'd be so
lasers?
sick.
Oh
That'd be
my
crazy.
god, that'd be so awesome. But anyways, we're actually going over to you and Joe Brown talking about Cloud Atlas, right?
That
Wom's
we
Words?
are.
Yeah. So let's
Yeah.
let's take it over to you.
Yeah.
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 Welcome to Words with Womp. Here with me again this week is Joe Brown. And this week we're going to be talking about the movie Cloud Atlas that was recently released. Now to start off with, Cloud Atlas just had beautiful visual effects.
Yeah, Cloud Atlas was amazing. It just like it was. I don't know how it was shot, but they had $100 million budget, so obviously they had the money for it. And there were some beautiful, just wide shots. There was just everything, and even the actors. You can see they were very crisp. There was that one scene where the plates were falling, and it was just so beautiful. It was really good.
It was great. I really liked the South Korea world where it was like all blue lasers and everything. It was
Right.
so cool. I like that a
Yeah,
lot.
I think that was another really awesome thing with Cloud Atlas was the intertwining stories. They told 6 different stories within one. There were essentially 6 different movies within one movie, and it was really awesome because there was the Neo Soul, the futuristic South Korea world. There was a futuristic caveman-ish world with Tom Hanks, and there was the 1930s world. It was just all over the place, but it was all the same characters in different time, playing different people. Sometimes played different genders. It was really good, I think.
I mean, as much as I liked all the different stories, there was no huge overarching story to it. It was all just the different stories with the same actors. I mean, I felt like there was no, as much as it was oh yeah, everyone's connected, it was there was no big plot. There's almost no reason for it other than to tell us that we're all connected.
But I think that was kind of the point on if you ask me, that they tell it in your face, our lives are not our own. Everything is connected. They had the little markers, the comets or whatever, that comet tattoo birthmark things that each character had. The world's on their neck or their back or something to show the interconnectivity of it. And I think it was the point to show, it puts life into a broader spectrum. It's a much bigger picture. And I think it didn't need to have one story because it couldn't have one story. It told you 6 stories at once. When there was action in one sequence, the other scene matched it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, and every time you're oh, well, we haven't been to the 1930s world in a while, boom, it went right there, right as you thought of it. Oh, we haven't seen the voyage on the ship in the 1800s, whatever that world was called, boom, it goes right to it. It did its job. It didn't need to have that, stereotypical storyline.
And I just felt like it was kind of it. In my opinion, it needed that. One thing that I thought was pretty cool was you had all the different characters. The actors played different characters in each world, and some of them sometimes they were hard to recognize, and they were hard to. It was hard to see them in the background. Sometimes they play smaller background roles.
Right.
But one of the problems that I have with that, using all the actors and especially the big names, is that when you use a big name like Hugo Weaving, you see him every time he's there. And for me, I only saw him. I didn't really see the character he was playing sometimes because he's such a big name and he's playing all these different roles.
Right.
It's kind of hard. It kind of took me out of the movie.
Yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. There were definitely parts like the Somni 451, the Asian woman that was in the Neo Soul world. She was a relatively unknown, most likely unknown, because I don't know how you would know her because she's not from here, never been in American movies. And she did a fantastic job. She was great acting. Everyone in the whole movie really had great acting.
Yeah,
and
everyone did a great job.
And because she was not well known in the other universes, when she played a different character, you didn't notice it. You know what I mean? But then it also goes with Hugh Grant. He's a very famous actor. A lot of people know him, and he was pretty much in every world. But as you and I watched it, at the end of the movie, without giving any spoilers, they tell you all the actors, and then they say who they played in the movie, like a little visual clip.
They show a
and
little.
and we were talking like, oh, Hugh Grant, he only had like one or two of the eras. Like, how did that happen? I thought everyone was connected, and they showed, and he was in every one of them. You could not recognize it. So it worked out well for some actors, but not, Hugo Weaving.
Hugo
You
Weaving,
saw
you
him every
see him
time,
everywhere.
Exactly. But Tom Hanks, at one point, I didn't really notice it right away. So I think, but overall, regardless of if you notice it or not, the acting was really good throughout. Especially Somni, she had that beautiful, the one teardrop thing that every actor aspires for.
Yeah, I mean, no, the acting was amazing overall. But one thing, like, they had all the different stories, but they weren't very deep. What you saw in the story is really what you got. I mean, there was no, like, nothing to make you think. It was all like, this is what's happening on screen, we're gonna tell you. Like, to the point where the actors were saying what's happening.
Right, yeah, exactly. It was very, face value, very in your face, this is what happens, which, I mean, as people who watch a lot of films, we might not like that, but for a normal movie, I think it worked fine. It's it wasn't supposed to be like The Master that came out a couple months ago with Joaquin Phoenix, where you're supposed to think of all this symbolic referencing. It was supposed to be in your face. It was simply complex by simple face value, but you had to still think about what was going on in 6 different stories at the same time. It might not have been deep, but it was still level.
Yeah. One thing, like, with the whole, like, what you see is what you're getting, like, they didn't even, like, try to hide the theme of the movie. They blatantly told you, even in the commercials they told you, that, like, everyone is connected. They don't hide that at all. I don't know, I kind of had a problem with that. Like, I wanted, like, I didn't want them to tell me that. I wanted to, like, try and figure that out maybe, and then they were like, no, theme.
No,
That's it. Like,
yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. I personally like that they told us. They weren't trying to trick us. It's hard enough to follow 6 stories at once with them trying to have little subtext going on and all those things. But I think it worked well that they told us. It didn't make me think, what does this mean? What does this mean? But it still made me think after I saw it. You know what I mean? I still thought of the world and are we all connected and how it was just I really liked it. I know you didn't, but
I mean, I like the movie.
No, you liked the movie,
yeah.
but you didn't like how the theme was right there. I thought they weren't trying to trick anybody at all with the movie.
Yeah. One thing, like, that a lot of people are probably gonna have a problem with is how they, like, the racial stereotyping thing where they would put, like, the makeup and everything on people's faces to make them look like they're from the different countries and all that.
Yeah, I definitely had a problem with it. It just seemed, I don't want to say wrong, but it just didn't seem like the right thing to do. Where Neo Soul, obviously, it was in South Korea, so everyone there was Korean. But because some of the actors were white, like
most of the actors,
yeah, exactly, like Hugo
white.
Weaving and Jim Sturgis, who were in that world, they were white actors. They basically just gave them, prosthetic like things on their face and slanted their eyes more, which it just felt like the only way they were Asian was because they had slanted eyes. It didn't seem right. The only way Halle Berry, one of her characters, it's not spoiling anything, is a Jewish person. The only way she is Jewish is they gave her a big prosthetic nose and put a little bit of powder on her face. She's the African American actress. She still looks African American in it, but she's got a little bit of white and a big nose, and I just find that wrong personally.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of unnecessary with a lot of them.
But I mean, overall, I personally love this movie. You and I saw it with a bunch of our friends. Some of us were split. Some of us really loved it. Some of us, Eric Egg, he really loved it too.
Yeah.
We were, talking about it the whole ride home. But I loved it. It just made me feel. It didn't. I don't know how to explain it. It's one of those movies.
Yeah.
There's always those movies that come out where you feel. I know that feels, bro. And I personally, if out of the movies I've seen this year, I would give it Best Picture, honestly, so far.
Yeah.
Now there's still those great, late end of the year pushes that come out. Like, I'm sure Lincoln's going to be amazing. Other movies, Les Mis is probably going to get a lot of notoriety. But as of right now, I would give Cloud Atlas Best Picture.
Okay. Man, I don't know. I had a problem with the length, though. It was like 3 hours.
It had to be 3 hours, There were 6
They
stories.
were telling 6 stories, but, I almost thought it was over halfway through the movie. I was like, oh, this is a decent length.
It didn't feel like 3 hours to me, though.
it felt like 3 hours.
I mean, when I started the movie, turned my phone off, and then it come back 3 hours later, and I have a bunch of texts and emails and stuff, I'm like, wow, that was really long. But it was fluent enough for me to not really mind the length. It wasn't, boring. It was the pacing matched each section, which made it good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. But that's all we got time for this week, Joe. Thanks for joining me.
No problem.
See you next time on Womp's Words.
That was actually pretty good. I saw Cloud Atlas. I really liked it. But those are some really good pros and cons you guys brought up.
Yeah, I mean, the movie's pretty great.
Well, then again, Tom Hanks is good in whatever he does. Let's be fair. Let's really be fair about that. We got to be honest like that. So, what do we have next going on?
Next, we got Games with Dave, where Dave is going to talk about Assassin's Creed 3.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like an awesome game. Let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah, over to Dave.
Over to Dave.
Hi, and welcome to Games with Dave. Today we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed 3. So the first thing you need to know is that the new Creed takes place during the American Revolution in the New England area. You'll explore cities such as Boston, New York, and Philadelphia, and other small cities that were key to the revolution such as Lexington and Concord. Desmond and the crew are back, and they found a cave outside of Boston with the markings of the Creed. They used the Apple of Eden to travel deep into the cave, and then they realized that they would need a key to unlock the cave's secrets. When the mention of the key comes about, Desmond fell into the past and began living the life of his ancestors during the American Revolution. That ancestor happens to be Haytham Kenway. You follow him from his trip to England to America in search of this cave. He has the key that Desmond is looking for, and he's trying to find what it unlocks. Things take a turn for the worse when you find out that Haytham is really a Templar. While in the colonies, Haytham falls in love with a Mohawk Indian, and together they have the next character you play as, and that is Connor. As a young child, Connor saw his village and his mother killed by Haytham's right-hand man. Connor vows that he will one day find and kill him. Connor trains as an assassin to one day be able to take on all the Templars, including his father, and kill them all the while helping Desmond find the key to unlock the secrets of the cave. Like all the other Creeds before, you use your guns, your blades, and in this game your key is your tomahawk. You also have a bow used well for hunting and range attacks. In this game, they've added some new stuff, such as muskets and rifles. The biggest disadvantage about these is it sucks because you have to reload them, and it takes forever to reload revolutionary style. But now the game has more fluid movements and parkour-like acts. So, for example, because there's not many tall buildings in the game, a lot of times you run through the wilderness and you can climb trees and stuff like that. And while you're climbing up the trees, instead of being kind of sketchy, it's more realistic in the fact that you'll bounce around the trees, you kind of run up them more like a real-life human being would. You also can use human shields in this game. As I was mentioning with the reloading, the bread coats like to stand up and line up right in front of you and take aim and shoot at you in their lines. You can grab a human, take them, stab them with your mohawk, pull them in and use them as a shield while they all shoot at him, and while they're reloading, you can take them all out. Weather actually has an effect in this game, such as the snow and the rain. In this game, the deeper the snow is, you actually move slower through the snow. Even horses run slower through the snow. So escaping through the snow is gonna be a lot harder. You might have to stick to the streets more. Your classic fighting style is still the same. Mostly sit there and base everything off of counters. Your kills are obviously a little bit different with the automatic kills. So, drop in on somebody, give them that little stabby stab, no big deal. One thing I really miss about the old creeds into this creed is climbing the tall buildings. Obviously in the Revolution, the colonies, probably the biggest building is a church that has like 3 stories. And it's hard to be able to run fluently across these buildings because there's large gaps. You really do most of your free running in the wilderness when you're climbing trees, bouncing off of rocks, and jumping down on unsuspecting redcoats. So as you can see, Assassin's Creed 3, it's a pretty sick game. Beautiful graphics, and I believe personally it's gonna be a lot better than Halo. So go out and get Assassin's Creed 3. Let's send it back to Dimitri and Mark in the studio.
Well, that's our show. Wow, it was just really so great. I guess, that's everything we've got for today, right?
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Tune in next week for another episode of Last on the Scene.
What the... Steve?
Steve, what are you?
Steve.
Of course, doing a good job. Like to say, you've been doing a good job. Gonna give you some of the stimulus money. You've been doing a good job.
Have you been back there the whole time?
I've been a very busy man, traveling across the country. But you've always been doing a good job telling the people about the video games. We need that in this country. We need problem solvers like you who can affect change in this country.
I think, should we go?
No, let's just stay right
No.
here.
Just stay right here.
Let's stay right here.
Group
Stay
hug.
right
We're gonna fight the unions together.
Tune in next week, guys. Tune in next week.
Thank you for voting, and we'll see you in the next one.
Peggy 18.
My Mercury shipment hasn't arrived. Can you help me?
Here's the meat you requested.
Thank you. Please accept this as a token of my gratitude.
Haven't eaten proper food in weeks. About ready to start gnawing on my boot leather.
Where is Silas?
Still holed up in the fort along the cliff. I hear he plans to leave tonight with a small force and attack a continental camp further south. You could follow them.
Let the Patriots fight their own battles. I'm here for the Templar.
To the point as always. Very well, stick to the woods. The fort is heavily defended, but if you approach silently, you should be able to make short work of them.
Stay quiet.